Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Folland and I am talking to you tonight from the balmy Bahamas. So my wife and I have just gone down to this beautiful part of the island, had dinner down by the water as the sun was setting, and we thought, wow, just feel so fortunate to be in the situation that we can travel the world and experience the stuff that we're experiencing, not have a job, have our own schedules, be financially independent if not financially free. And so I was just, as I got back here, just made a note of 10 top tips that I was given early on for financial independence. So I thought I'd share those with you. And the first one is that to take responsibility. And this was a big one for me because if it was to be, it was up to me, was what I heard over and over and over. And that came with every area of my life. In fact, what got us on this journey into financial independence was an accident where Fee and I were run over on a pedestrian crossing. A car went through a red light and just cleaned us out. And instead of where I was broken, I had a head injury, Fee had a whole bunch of fractures, and so we were broken people. We lost our business, lost our income, and there was a lot of anger that I had towards the driver for not so much damaging me but damaging my wife. And I could sit around in that for a while, but what I decided to do was actually take responsibility. I took responsibility for the fact that I put myself on that pedestrian crossing at that time, not being totally aware of everything around me. It was my responsibility. And actually it ended up being a gift because it got us off the traditional path that we were on and onto a much better path, which created financial independence and retirement early for us a whole lot faster than we would have otherwise. So my point and my top tip number one is to accept responsibility for getting yourself into a financial situation that you can actually retire early. So you can do it. It's up to you. The government's certainly not going to do it. And you have the resources available around you, especially with the internet. You can learn pretty much anything out there. So you can do it. If you accept responsibility, go out and make it happen. So one of the things that people are doing is out of control spending. And that was certainly what I was doing as I started into the workforce and had jobs and higher salaries. I'd play, right? I'd have the money, I'd spend it. I'd have the money, I'd spend it. And so that's one of the things that we needed to do is get our spending under control. And you will need to do that too if you want to be financially independent, retire early. So what we did is we sat down, we established a budget, and this is crucial. So it wasn't pleasant, it hurt quite a bit. It was actually sort of wrestling my mind into actually being an adult with my money, understanding where my money was going, how much needs to go here and here and here. We could set a budget for it. So we took a business approach to it, and it is crucial. Having a budget is one of the top tips. It's tip number 3. I also heard to pay myself first. Now this is something that was foreign to me. I'd never heard this or come across it before. Basically, previously I was earning money, I was spending money, and if there was anything left over, great, that would be mine. But what this principle is saying is you earn money and you pay yourself, and then you go out and pay other people, your creditors, people that you owe the rent or the mortgage to, etc. Right? So it's counterintuitive, but the reasoning behind it is really solid. If you don't look after you, and if you run out of money and stress yourself out and get sick and can't go out and earn more money, you're not going to be any good for yourself or anybody else. So you've got to look after number one first, so that's you. So paying yourself first was like such a freeing scenario for me. It felt great, and I trust it does for you too. Number 5, avoid debt. If you're in debt, and most people are, then get yourself out of debt as quickly as possible. Because the whole of life changes from a financial perspective when you don't have to make that mortgage or rent payment. It is so cool owning property and knowing all I need to do is pay my property taxes. That's all. I got to pay my rates. That's it. And so your living expenses dramatically reduce when you get yourself out of debt. Now that might be consumer debt, that might be a mortgage, etc. And so in some cases, certain circumstances, it is actually a better economic decision to have a little bit of debt and put that money into maybe the share market, etc. I understand that. But in general principles, and what we're talking about today is very general principles, never get into debt. So get yourself out of debt as quickly as possible. And actually while you're doing that, the sixth tip is to build yourself an emergency fund. This is what Fee and I did. So we figured out how much we needed to live on if something happened and we needed 3 months of backup, no money coming in. We needed that balloon payment sitting there, that emergency fund. So we built towards that so that we knew we had this safeguard. We called it a cash reserve. So that's actually what we labeled the bank account name, cash reserve. So our cash reserve was 3 months. People say a month or 2 months, but what happens if it takes you 3 months to get yourself back on track again? So 3 months I'd say would be a minimum. Tip number 7 would be keep learning. I was actually confused about the financial markets. There was a lot of language that I didn't understand. There was terminology that I didn't know what they were talking about. And it was confusing. And I think that scares a lot of people away from actually understanding money and the subject of money and financial markets and debt, etc. You just need to keep learning. It's scary how many people finish their learning when they come out of school, and that can't be you. You need to keep learning, reading, podcasts, internet searches. Just break it down and take it bit by bit. You can figure it out as you go. Find somebody who is successful that you trust, and my experience is successful people were surprisingly open and willing to share the information, share what they'd learned if it can help you. And so I'm sure you'll find the same thing. Number 8, have clear financial goals. Absolutely. Such an important aspect of this, because if you don't have something written down about where you're going, then partway through the year you're just going to, probably only days into it. Most people have New Year's resolutions, right? And on the 3rd or the 4th of January, they're forgotten. So having a clear, concise financial goal about where you're going, what you need to be financially independent, how much money do you need coming in from your investments so you don't need to go to work. And so most people sleep 8 hours, work 8 hours, and then they have 8 hours of stuff, right? So if you can sleep 8 hours and you've put enough money aside that are covering your expenses in life, then you don't have to work that 8 hours. You've got it off. So now you've bought 16 hours of your life back. So you can sleep 8 hours and the rest of your day is up to you what you do with it. You can play, or you can start or continue building your financial portfolio so that you have even more resources at hand. And to do that, one of the favorite things for me is to start, number 9, start a side hustle. We are living in the era of the side hustle. Essentially, basically, if you don't have a side hustle, it's really hard to get ahead in life. To get ahead on simply work income and to pare back all your expenses to the level that you might be saving 40-50% so that you have enough money, like you have $1 million, etc., that you're able to walk away from your job. It's tough. It's doable, and there's a whole community of people out there supporting each other in the process. And for me, I think it's crazy. Well, it's not crazy, but I'm thinking you can just make it so much easier on yourself. One of the biggest expenses in life is what? What's one of the biggest expenses in life? Probably your biggest expense in life. Do you know what it is? Did you think mortgage? Did you think rent? Did you think food? I've heard some guy said, "Oh, my wife." They're like, "Dude, you're in trouble for that." No, it's your taxes. So if your taxes are one of your biggest expenses in life, and you didn't even know what your biggest expense in life, how can you hope to get ahead? But now that you know what your biggest expense is, you need to have a strategy to manage that, right? And so having a side hustle in most of the Western world, then you're entitled to home-based business tax deductions on your side project, right? And so being more tax effective is one of the fastest way to make sure that you're getting yourself to financial independence. And then you have the opportunity to add an extra income to what you're currently doing, which is obviously a bonus because the more money you make, the more money you'll be able to put aside. And the 10th and final tip as we wrap up tonight, at 10 minutes actually, number 10 is simplify your life. Life does get really complex and we get a whole bunch of stuff around us that maybe we don't need. So clear out closets, get rid of stuff in your garage, put stuff onto the auction sites that you don't need so that you can circulate that money and put that cash back in your hands. Go through your expenses, figure out what you don't need in there as expenses, get rid of it. If you take a simple approach to life, it's like energy opens up and money opens up and opportunities open up. And there's so many stories of people that are earning multiple six-figure incomes and they had no money. And they simplified down and they took a different job and made $50,000 a year, and now they're taking 3-4 trips that they never were able to take before. And an idea of simplifying down, because it's the goal is not to make more money, make more money, make more money, make more money, and spend more money, spend more money, spend more money. It's not the way to financial independence and retirement, early retirement. Financial freedom doesn't work that way. It's having control on what you're doing, simplifying everything, and increasing your income. Those are my ideas. So please let me know any thoughts or comments below. This is Chris Folland signing off from the Barmy Bahamas and wishing you a fantastic day.